Welcome to It's a Woman's World, where we take you on the journey to meet powerful, impactful, beautiful women who are making changes every day in our community. And this episode truly is no different. We are here to celebrate the life of a beautiful woman who has made all kinds of strides. Let's get into it. First, I want to start by introducing all of my great co-hosts. Let's start first with Barbara Lavalier. Welcome, Barbara.
Well, thank you, Jamela. And I'm super excited to talk with Kelly today and find out more about her organization and have her tell our viewers about her organization. So let's go.
Let's go. And Candy Pettiford.
Well, I am excited because I've been knowing her, but I really don't know her. So I'm going to find out some goodies today, Miss Kelly.
And our guest that we are so honored to have with us today, Kelly Drummer. Welcome, Kelly.
Welcome.
Well, I am so delighted to be here today, and just thank you for inviting me to be a part of this opportunity. And I look forward to chatting with you all.
Yes, and we look forward to unpacking and chatting with you as well. It started for me many years ago, meeting this powerful, impactful little woman who had all these great ideas. And I just remember being so impressed with you when I first met you, when we worked together many years ago. Could you tell us, for all those who do not know you, who is Kelly Drummer?
Sure. So I'm a member of the Oglala Lakota Nation, and I've grew up in Minneapolis area, in the St. Paul, Minneapolis, Twin Cities area. And I've been involved with the American Indian community and nonprofits my entire life. And really my mission is around social justice. And so I've surrounded my career and my personal life in fighting for social justice for all of our people, but multiple nonprofits. I was a founder of Tiwahe Foundation, an American Indian community foundation here in the Twin Cities that gives grants directly to American Indians. And 5 years ago, I launched my journey with Migizi Communications. And in the 5 years, it's been a journey. I will tell you that. And but my passion really is working with young people. And Migizi works with American Indian youth in the Twin Cities community, and I believe they're our future. It's been my entire life. I'm a mother of 3 children and 2 stepchildren, and so I want my children to have the future that they deserve, and so that's why I've been involved in this work. Basically my whole life. I grew up here in Minneapolis, like I said, and this is my community, and I want my community to thrive. And so that's kind of been my mission, my entire personal life, my entire professional career. And I look forward to talking with you more about my work.
Can you say the name again, Kelly, of the tribe? I love the way you said that, but you said it so fast.
Oglala Lakota Nation.
Oglala. Oh, geez. Try it again.
Oglala
Oglala
Mhm.
Lakota. That's beautiful.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Kelly, tell us, you growing up in Minneapolis, being a part of the Lakota tribe and having, visions of wanting to see a whole nation, seeing a sovereign nation reestablish themselves. What really drove you to philanthropy, to really go into raising money of all things? When we think of youth work or community work, we don't often think of philanthropy as, the groundbreaking foundational work, but that has been your work. So talk about, how did you go into philanthropy?
I would say the first time I really experienced, social injustice in the community was when I was on the bus with a caretaker of mine when I was about 8 years old. And we were on the bus on Chicago and Franklin. and I saw our community and just the despair. A lot of that has changed. But it's moved on to different places all along our community. In fact, Migazee's new building is on Lake Street in Hiawatha, and so that those same images I have imprinted in my head, decades ago, still exist, and that is why I continue to do the work that I do in community. And I never thought I would be in fundraising ever. I was, a single mother, grew up in challenging situations, family situations, and I lacked really the confidence. I was a graduate of the University of Minnesota, and actually having a child, being a single mother, able to graduate college, but I still didn't have that confidence. I was working in a bar in Northeast Minneapolis, and I just never felt like I fit in or deserved to be a part of something greater. And I think that's the fact that a lot of our young people feel that same way. So that is why I have this passion that really one person can change the world, really. And when I first got involved in philanthropy, I was at Family Partnership, which I now serve on the board, on the executive committee of the board, and they really believed in me. And during that time, I got pregnant and had another child as a single mother. And those challenges, I think, just compounded. But I also had people that believed in me, a lot of people that believed in me. In fact, Laura Waterman Woodstock, the founder of Migazee, was one of those mentors of mine. And she was a major part of my life. And I was invited to a conversation around building American Indian college in Minneapolis. And that's when I first started really seeing my value. And it was really the elders in the community that, really took me under their wing, said, hey, you know what, we see big things in you. And that's the same thing that when young people walk into our building at Migazee, I see those same bright stars. And that's what we need in our community is really our young people just need someone to believe in them, that you can do anything. And so from that point, I really got engaged in philanthropy, and I was at Headwaters Foundation and helped develop the Fund of the Sacred Circle. Actually had the chance to meet Wilma Mankiller. Laura introduced me to her, and she spoke at one of our events. And at the event, I did not want to speak in front of the group. I just had never felt confident. I didn't want to do that. And she, when she was speaking, she said, I just want to say that Kelly, she said, she is going to change the face of philanthropy. And at that point, I still didn't believe that. But, since then, Headwaters is, still making grants. There's an endowment that makes grants across the state. From that point, I went on to Tiwahi Foundation and was the founder of that organization. And when I left Tiwahi 5 years ago, I left the organization with a $6 million endowment to ensure that our American people would receive direct grants to support their work in culture, education, and economic stability. And that legacy, it lives on. And now my current work at Migazee, I never thought I would go through the challenges that I've been through in the past 5 years with building a building, being basically a victim of what happened all around our area. We were never vandalized. We were, nothing was ever taken, broken. We were just in the wrong place. And so, watching our building burn, a little over 3 years ago, and then where we're at today, we raised within the past 5 years, $12 million to build 2 buildings. Wow. We are in a brand new space on Lake Street. We just moved in August 1st. And it's really amazing to see how our community, not only our own community, but everyone throughout the Twin Cities and the world actually gave to the organization so that we could rebuild our place.
Yeah.
So first of all, did all women who went to college work in bars? Yes, I did too. That took effect. But you mentioned your undergraduate degree from the U in it was in cultural anthropology, and your master's at St. Mary's was in philanthropy and development. And my first question is, did your college education drive or impact what you're doing right now? How much of an impact, if any, did it have? Could you be doing the same thing without that?
Mm.
I don't think so. Um, I think that my undergraduate degree opened up my eyes to all, the world. I do blame our educational system that, you're learning from textbooks that were written by people that do not look like me, that are telling their version of the story. And so when I went to college, it really opened up the real history. And that to me, was a turning point in my life. Like I really have to do something. Like I said, when I was on the bus, 7, 8 years old, and seeing the injustice that I really have to make an effort to do that. And I ended up in my master's program in philanthropy and development because of a mentor. And my first real job in philanthropy was at the Jewish Community Foundation. And I didn't know anything about the Jewish community at all. And they embraced me. They took on really educating me about their community, but also empowering me to continue my my education. And Judy Yellen, who I just love, she no longer lives in Minnesota. She said, you should really go through this program. I think that you would be a great fundraiser. And I think you're going to really find your niche. And so she encouraged me to apply, and I applied, and I was accepted.
Barbara, if you had something else to add
No.
to that. But, Kelly, I'd like to know the beauty that you see in your culture. Can you explain that Native American beauty that we really don't know? Explain to us, what is the culture like? What the elders, I hear about that, and women's role. Explain a little bit about your culture.
Well, one of the things that I really has kept me stable in my life is my culture. How am I culturally grounded and practicing our teachings, our 7 grandfather teachings, and everything that I do. And that's one thing that I really work with youth on, is you have to be grounded in your culture. You have to be grounded in your teachings. And the respect for elders that we have in our community, that they are the knowledge keepers, that they are the ones that carry our community and all of our knowledge and values. And so I learned a lot from elders. I mean, I didn't grow up in my immediate family, but my grandparents were very grounded people. And so I had experiences. I was able to go to the reservation with my family. I was able to learn medicine gathering. I was able to learn how to use those medicines. And so I feel fortunate to be an urban Indian person that was able to experience those things because of my grandparents. I think they're, and I will acknowledge it. I think in my parents' generation, a lot of those traditions and that knowledge was lost. And so my grandparents were central to my life. I feel like, how can Migazi be the grandparent for these children? Because they're hungry for that knowledge. We bring out young people. Last weekend we just brought them out wild ricing. So how is rice sacred, a sacred food in our community? How do you harvest it? How do you process it? How do you use it in ceremony, in just nourishing your body? We also run a maple sugar bush camp in the spring. We took young people to the Boundary Waters to ground themselves in culture. But culture is, it's everything to our people. If we're not grounded in our culture, we're not going to be grounded as people, and we're not going to be able to serve as leaders in our community, or just basic, survival because of, I think a lot of people don't really realize that, we are sovereign nations. There's, over 500 sovereign nations across the United
Now, you
States.
talked about rice.
And
I'm a rice lover. I love rice. How important is that in your culture, rice? You mentioned that, like,
yeah, it's a nourishment. It nourishes our soul. I
you
mean,
know,
just the
white rice or brown rice
Wild.
or
wild rice.
wild.
Yes. So I had the opportunity to take my son to Canada, with our family. My father and my uncles have been going to Canada for over 40 years, and we fish, we gather medicines. My cousin is actually a knowledgeable medicine harvester, so he taught my son all of sorts of knowledge that he will need, basically to teach his children, and how we use those medicines to heal. So our sacred medicines are tobacco, cedar,
Okay.
sage, and sweetgrass. And so Solomon and I actually gathered cedar, Canadian cedar. It smells like, I mean, Canada just smells like cedar. It's like medicine. The air is medicine. It's like you're just there.
What part of
Ontario,
Canada? Okay.
up in Ontario. Yep. It's near, well, we're fishing on the Lac Seul Reserve, which is part of it is the Lac Seul Nation's land and lake, and the other part is open to non-tribal members. So that's where we go. But when you come back to the cities and the air, it's like you no longer have like air that is medicine. I mean, really. So we gathered a lot of that cedar, and then when I returned, I gifted that to our staff. I gifted it to our youth. And so one thing that we do with cedar is we hang it in our doorways as a healing place. But we make cedar tea, which is a huge benefit to your health. But wild rice, the reason why I brought up Canada is there's wild rice everywhere. I mean, we were going through it's kind of like a creek to get to the other part of the lake, and it was growing everywhere. And my cousin and I were like, just look at all this medicine that we're driving our boat through to get to the other lake. So those type of things are really important for our young people to learn and know. And our wild rice is dying because of the pollution, because of all of the chemicals, because of the mining that's happening across the United States and Canada. So to preserve that. So actually this fall, we are working with young people on wild ricing. They're making knockers, which you use in your canoe to knock off the rice. They're learning about all the properties that makes wild rice thrive. And then doing studies. And then they had the opportunity, like I said, on Saturday to go and gather wild rice. And so that's the start of their teachings around, really, we're working, it's in our green tech program, the science of wild rice. So, our people were people with knowledge of science, not how traditional science is thought of. But we also carry star knowledge, which is a science which we work on teaching our children. In fact, I'll get it right here. I've been working with my son on the Lakota star knowledge, because he learned a lot from his uncles and cousin about star knowledge. And so really taking this book and reiterating what our elders were saying to my son about carrying this knowledge forward. It's what taught us the directions, it taught us the seasons, it taught us where we needed to travel to gather food, all of those things. And so that knowledge is something that like I said, I would say 90% of our urban American Indian kids, which 60% of our population lives in an urban setting, not in their tribal communities, they do not know to be
Kelly,
grounded.
I saw on your website that only a little over 50% of Native students graduate from high school. And I then also was looking at the 4 parts of your program: internships, the CLAW part, which you could tell us about, tutoring, and first-person productions. Could you tell us about what McGeesee is doing in those 4 areas?
Sure. I'll start with the CLA program, which stands for Culture, Leadership, Academics, and Well-being. So we believe all of those things are essential to ground our young people to be grounded in their culture. So, like I said, we wild rice camps, sugar bush camps, winter storytelling, the Boundary Waters trip to be able to see these stars, so we can teach them. That's really our cultural grounding. The leadership work, we are in the midst of really rethinking our leadership work. And one of the things, we had a youth focus group in April, and they wanted to learn about treaty rights. What are the treaties, the essential treaties that make up our nations. And so we'll be focusing on that, but we're looking at forming a Native Leadership Council. Our work was just in Minneapolis, but expanding it to all of our work in St. Paul. We work in 7 school districts: West Tonka, Wayzata, Fridley, Farmington, White Bear Lake, St. Paul, and Minneapolis. And that has been recently in the past 5 years. So since I've been there, we've really expanded our reach to really engage the American Indian youth in our suburban districts. And then the academic piece, we've been involved in academic supports, for over 45 years. The organization is 45 years old. And that was mostly focused in Minneapolis, but we actually provide in-class supports at South High All Nations program, and at Harding High Schools. They have an American Indian Studies program there. So we have 3 staff in those schools, and then we run after-school programming. In fact, we've just finished our fall planning, and we're going to be focusing on language tables in Dakota and Ojibwe, the tutoring, like I said, around the academic supports, and then the leadership supports. And then the well-being supports, we focus on how one of the curriculums we use is Live It. It's a American Indian sexual health curriculum. We also focus on just mental health and spiritual health. So all of those are, really, we feel, are the grounding supports that
There's
we can
so
provide.
much richness to you, to what you have done, to the ways that you have worked, to the ways that you have built community. It really brings me back to a saying that my mom often says, is that behind every good woman is the women who came before her. And, we only have a few more minutes, and you really encompassed everything that you have done in all of your great work and accomplishments. And we, as the Women's World team, we really congratulate you. We really honor your work. We really celebrate you. You talked about someone really invested in you. Someone, a beautiful woman, a powerful, impactful, you named several powerful, impactful women who really took the time, saw your beauty, saw your worth, saw your heart, and even your insecurity and some of your timidity. Okay. What is it that we can do now to begin to give this legacy to the next generation? And what is it that you would say, to our young women who might say, going to college, much like Barbara was saying, did it help you? Did it enhance you? Did it enrich you? What would be your final summarization statement to the young women who are looking at you, who are saying, I'm a Native woman. I also felt some of those same, disparities and insecurities within myself. I also want to be powerful like you, Kelly, and do all the great work that you've done. What would you say to this woman who's watching this show and who's saying, man, I really wish, I could be great. What would be your words, your final words of love and hope and healing that you would give?
Good question.
Yeah, great question. It almost brought a little bit of tears to my eyes because I have had so many people. I mean, I think as women, we all need each other and we have to empower each other and we have to be real with each other. That is probably the number one thing. And that is when I'm mentoring young folks, that's the one thing is be real, be yourself. You know, I don't even usually say my title. I usually say I'm with McGizzy Communications. I never say, and everyone says, why don't you ever say you're the president? I said, because I am no greater or better than anybody else in this room. And that is a value, a Lakota value to have humility. And I mean, Jamela is always kind of like, Kelly, you need to, and it is a value. And I think that is something that has grounded me in my entire life is to be humble and to show others that nobody is greater than anybody else. And I feel like the women that mentored me saw me as their equal, even though I was, 30 years younger. They saw and the other thing is having seen that star. Everybody has um, a star, and every culture or religion usually has that belief. We all have that in us. So that is to be able to nurture that through prayer, through culture, through seeing value and seeing each other as equals. That's probably one of the things that grounded me with a lot of the mentors that were in my life, as they saw me as their equal. They didn't see me as a kid or someone that didn't have knowledge or didn't know what they were doing. And that's the same way I approach young people, is that they have a star. How do you nurture that star? Because we can dim that. Believe me, it was dimmed a lot in my life. And I think all of us can attest to that. So
Well, Kelly, I want you to know that this time has been rich. We might even need to talk about doing a part two. There's just so much to unpack with all of the great work that you've done throughout the years. And what's beautiful about this time that we get to share with all of you is that hopefully you will see your star as well. Hopefully you will realize the beauty that's on the inside of you and that there are people that are waiting for you to shine your light bright enough so that they can find you and so they can be a part of the beautiful richness that you bring to the world. And so, Kelly, we want to thank you for all of your great work. I want to thank my co-hosts for also being here. And of course, I want to thank all of you for being with us. We hope that something that you heard today will inspire you to be great and to change the community one star at a time. Thank you for being with us. It's a woman's world. And again, we'll catch you next time.